Welcome to the Practical Shaman podcast. I'm Renee Baribeau, and in 2026, we're gathering at the crossroads of story, spirit, and lived experience. Each episode, I sit down with authors who are asking the deeper questions of our time, writers who are not just sharing ideas, but walking them. Together, we explore how ancient wisdom, creativity, and relationship with the natural world can guide us through the change with clarity and courage. This is a place for thoughtful conversation, grounded insight, and voices that help us remember how to live well even when the winds are shifting. And I'm glad you're here. Please like and subscribe and check us out over at thepracticalshaman.com. Today we have with us Tracee Dunblazier, a Los Angeles-based spiritual empath, shaman, and 68-time international award-winning author and hybrid publisher at GoTracee Publishing. As a certified grief counselor and multi-sensitive, Tracee's blend of intuitive information combined with different modalities has provided the opportunity for thousands to achieve deep healing and create the success and peace they seek in their lives. Tracee serves as the president of the Coalition of Visionary Resources, the trade organization for the mind, body, spirit industry. And we met last year at Conscious Life Expo, and we're both going to be there again this year. What are the dates?
Yes, I believe it is the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And then there is an after conference. I'll actually be teaching at the after conference. I'll be teaching a Channeling 101 course.
Oh, how awesome. I'm going to be teaching something about intuition and getting messages from nature on Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. And mine's a free talk.
Wonderful.
And then my booth is going to be an opportunity to come over and step into, see if you resonate with the way that I plan on teaching this coming year. And because last year our booth was a little bit too busy and nothing really happened.
Yeah, I mean, at the expo, there can be hordes of people all the time. And so it makes it really hard to have that nice, deep one-on-one connection.
Well, that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little sanctuary spot that if you want to come in and connect with me or, whoever my friends are at my booth, that's going to happen. So for those of you who don't know, this is one of the largest expos, and it's at the Los Angeles Hilton. And boy, oh boy, you get your room reservation early because you need that room to go up and relax. I mean, the energy but the amount of amazing people is so awesome that I highly recommend that you go. And below this, I'll give you a disc. I don't know if it's a discount ticket or there's some kind of discount in the ticket. Use my link or use Tracee's link. And the organization you run, is it called Cover? Is it like
it's
short?
It's Cover. It's short for the Coalition of Visionary Resources.
Well, I was very excited because I won an award for my oracle with them this year.
You did. You won Oracle Deck of the Year, that's a big honor because that's one of our most populated categories every year. There's a huge amount of competition for that all over the world. We have international and national contributors. So,
well, that's really
congratulations for that.
I didn't really get but I'm very excited about it. And I mean, you have, how many decks do you have?
I've got 3 decks.
Okay. Tell us about your decks.
So I've got, this is my most recent. It's called the Oracle of the In-Between, and it has this beautiful iridescent writing on it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Is that the one that just won the Nautilus Award?
Yes.
Congratulations. That's a real honor
I know. I was so excited. I love this deck so much. It was myself and Yasmin Westwood. We had the best time creating this deck because it's meant to help you just in your mind to recognize all the places in the world where we have opportunities to make another choice and to transition from where we're at now to something else. Right? There's always an opportunity to transition and transform something. And this, the deck helps to connect you to that concept of being in the in-between where change takes place. Like, this is one of our cards. It's called Navigate, and it talks about the path of that transition.
I love that, because not a lot of people, I spend a lot of time talking about the gap, because I believe the magic happens in the gap. And it's the ability to, and why I'm the practical shaman is because lots of people can go in the gap and create all they want, right? But I only believe, and it sounds like with your changing what your story is here, the ability to actually manifest something that's worthwhile for your life, instead of just going up and calling on this, borrowing all of this extra energy that you don't even need. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many different, I mean, we do a lot of things in transition. You know, we heal, we integrate, we access new information to change our perspective, which may allow more peace and, you know, a clearer vision, or it may allow grief to come through, and that changes the whole lens that we look through when we are working on acknowledging the world that we live in.
Yeah, that's a lot of work these days.
Yes, it is. Oh my God.
And it's not even like, I said the other day, with some by accident online, I'm there like, you know, I'm not taking sides. And somebody called me out on it. What do you mean you're not taking sides? And I decided, and you come from a shaman's background, that the shaman has to be the neutral peacekeeper. And that doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. It means you have to hold a container that's big enough to hold all of the different points of view. And people don't necessarily understand that that doesn't mean you don't think that's not really going on. I'm really not happy about that.
Right.
But I have to be able to walk in that I have to be able to walk between the worlds, and that includes that world.
Right. You know, it's very interesting. I too am a shaman. I mean, I was born multidimensional, and so my whole experience, even up until I was 30, was this whole internal experience of being multi-spirited and multidimensional, and having all of these points of view all in my head. And it wasn't until I have always had that very broad ability to recognize both sides. But one of the things that I think has really risen for me in what's going on right now, what's going on, this is not about politics. This is about whether or not you are inclusive or exclusive. Whether you know, look at a lens of fear, and you create a separation between you and other people, you and other things. So on one level, like I too had to have that conversation with myself about, again, this is not for me about political parties or political agenda. None of this is political. It's humanitarian. We are in a humanitarian crisis, and there is only one side to take, which is the one that includes everyone. There's only one.
Love that.
That's the only side that there can really be. Anybody who doesn't choose that, they're just taking the long way around to take the beat down on whatever level they're going to, metaphysically speaking, until they get to the point where they need to include others. Right? Like, so spiritually speaking, there's a broader conflict at play here. And absolutely, we need you know, neutral guides to be able to walk and accept people as they are in the moment. And that's hard. That is hard to do right now with some people and their behavior and their thoughts or their beliefs or their, you know, there are a lot of people who won't have a conversation with you. Right? They want to use talking points, and they want to focus on the illusion of fake news or what's real and what's not, and all of that as a ruse to justify bad behavior, illegal behavior, immoral behavior, right? But And there has to be that group of people who can walk and hold the hands of both people to energetically, emotionally require that connection and that communication. But I think that's different than taking sides, because like I said, I think ultimately this is not political, it's humanitarian. And ultimately, we all must choose the side of humanity.
I know I do. I know I live on a small island, and
Right.
and on the small, right now I'm in the Palm Springs, so this is kind of a small island down here too.
It
But
is.
on the side of like a lot of the workers who are in my home doing projects are 360 degrees or well, I think it is 360 degrees, but 180 degrees, different than most of the things that I stand for in a certain way. And yet I find the common ground on where we do meet. Someone struggling to get sober, somebody working hard to make a living, someone who's got a relationship issue with their wife and their children. And
Right.
I think sometimes we all forget those. One of the things that I noticed in that I think we can, with this Minnesota shooting last week was the mouthy girlfriend. When I was 20 and 2030, and I was so mouthy, I had no fear of my death or my mortality or anything.
Right.
And we forget we were all stupid children one time, that didn't have the maturity. So when you said different things about that, I wanted to add in maturity.
Of course.
Maturity is so important.
Yeah, but when you mention maturity, there are, what is mature, what the possibilities for behavior in our system of inequality today for a white person is different
Mm-hmm.
than other people.
Exactly.
It is. Like our system, the system needs to be broken down so that we can recognize we all have the same voice, and we all have the right to have that voice. And women, I'm working on a lovely little piece on feminine rage.
Oh, I love that.
Right? Because I think that's one of the things that it's something that every woman has
Mm.
experienced, living in our culture, living in our system, being afraid at some point for something. We are naturally indoctrinated with being afraid. We are taught to be conscientious about what we wear, what we say, how we act, taught to be nice, to be
How much
ladylike,
we weigh.
right? No, exactly. We are taught all of these things as if that is the way it is. And
Hmm.
no, what that is an unequal system seeking to diminish power in a sector of its people.
I
You know?
agree. I so agree. The other day when I made a comment where I said that idea that I'm not taking sides, there was a Harvard educated woman of color who said to me, "How can this be, Renee?
Right.
Where are you white women now? Like, what do you think we've been dealing with all of these years?" And
Yeah.
it was the wind smack that I needed,
Yeah.
because everyone kept giving lip service to white privilege, white privilege, white privilege. But until that moment, and I'm educated and I'm out there, until that moment when she said that, I had no clue what they meant.
Yeah.
And call me stupid.
Yeah.
But
No,
then I got it.
it's not. I mean, if we want to say stupid is a lack of awareness of a particular set of information, set of facts, set of experiences. Yes, there is a system in play that is built for the white male. And whatever demographic that you are in that system, it's going to be easy to know whether or not that system benefits you or it doesn't. White women are allowed to cry because we're criers, we're snowflakes. we can have big emotions, and it's like the whole phenomena of the, in quotes, Karens, right? Which are, pardon me, please forgive me, I meant to turn that sound down. uh, we have been indoctrinated to believe we have the right to give our opinion, and that our opinions are fact. And that's not a rational thought. That is something that is carried over and carried over and carried over by what we witness in our culture. And and if we don't have a deep understanding of other cultures and the diversity of how other people live in this society, we can't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so all we can do, it's so funny when you mention that, I don't have, or I'm neutral, or I don't take sides. It resonated with this idea, with white people saying they don't see color.
Right.
And the interesting thing is we always see color.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I think oftentimes people might mean by that is that there are things about you as a person that I resonate with. So when I look at you, I don't know which of those you have because you're Black.
Right.
Or because I'm white. Like, I may not have that information about myself or about you, but I don't judge you because of the color of your skin. And then we had that, like, we have to take that into that judgment. Okay, what does that mean? What biases do we carry? What are our deeper beliefs? My mother and father both left their families. I just found these letters, love letters from when my parents were courting. And I think I'm going to guess that mom was about 17 or 18 and dad was 19 or 20. He was in the Air Force. He was a radio man, but he got his start in radio in the Air Force. And they were writing these letters back and forth. And oh my God, it's so powerful how boring these letters are. Like, they talk about the weather and, whatever mundane things, but they were so meaningful to each other. They literally wrote letters every day. But both of my parents left their families, and very racist white families, not like not KKK racist, but indoctrinated racism, where it's okay to use the N-word. That's how you refer to a person of color. And, just things that are a natural way of being for them at the time that they grew up. And so my parents left that early, and they created this circle between them and the family that they created for us. There were three kids, and both my parents were very open-hearted, open-minded, and you're talking in the 50s and the 60s, right? But even that, like, I realized my father died when I was very young, and I did not have a very close, intimate relationship with my mother. And I realized after many years that there was great purpose in that for me, because one of the things that didn't happen, I was born multi-spirited, which means I had multiple spirits attached to me, all of different races, or different ethnicities, different spiritual and time frame experiences, their frames of reference. And so up until I was 35, that is how I looked at life. So when I did not see myself as the white that I finally learned, when people say, like, when somebody says, "Oh, well, she's white," that means something to them. And I didn't understand what that meant until all my people left me. Like, the spirits left me, and it was just white Tracee. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I get it.
It was quite an awakening. And the thing that I understood was that had my parents stayed longer in their families, and had I been closer to both of my parents and had them around, I would have been in conflict every day of my life with how I saw things. I mean, I was already in conflict with my friends and with my friends' families. And I mean, there was this indoctrinated racism that in the white culture, people will say things to you because you're white and they just expect that you think that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm always shocked when it happens, but then I'm like, oh, that's right. That happens. Okay. And I felt like I was an island growing up, and it was sad and it was lonely and it was all of these things. But as I matured and had the privilege of waking up to how I felt, and then how other people saw me, I was like, wow, what a powerful thing to have been lucky enough to not have been in conflict every day of my life. And the reality is the majority of people who come to live in our country, be in our country, they live in conflict in some way every single day of their life because of what our culture, what the unconsciously agreed upon norms that are accepted here. It puts people in conflict with themselves.
That's pretty, it makes me think about 2 years ago, I was standing at the airport and I got a phone call that somebody died in my house. And I'm I'm a shaman. I'm a spiritual person. I should be able to manage these feelings. And I didn't. I had a really hard time with the whole thing, and I froze.
Mm,
And but what it really did in the long run, and it's kind of what you're saying here, is like this conversation that I had, this idea of not taking sides and what my white privilege looked like. But the same thing was with my awakening,
yeah.
that I thought I was 90%, 95% of the time I was happy, go lucky. I was not that awake is such a good word at the moment for some people, but I was really living in my purpose.
Right.
And then I get bammed and I'm there like, wow, well, that's a real shakeup. But the same thing with this whole idea is like there's this idea that I somehow was better than my family and could move out of the system of my father's Archie Bunker mentality, like
Right.
that I somehow, because I that it somehow wasn't still a container that I moved out of,
Right.
then I was looking into,
Right.
that there was no, like, like when something really heals in you, it dissolves.
Right.
But that container never really dissolved because I still look and say, oh yeah, he was such a racist pig. And and when I look at some other leaders in this country, and I think to myself, like, they remind me of my father,
Right.
and I have that opinion, then I'm still not healed. I'm still not separate from it, or I am separate from it
Right.
because I haven't embodied it.
Right.
Does that make
And
sense?
it makes absolute sense. And I think the thing that people don't, there is no point at which one graduates fully from any bias. We don't do that. That doesn't happen. It is a way in which we recognize, even in our DNA, white people, we have a DNA that has this illusion of righteousness and superiority, and it's not, you may not feel it, it may not be in your spirit, but certainly there are traces, there are echoes. And so all we can possibly do is choose an awareness of where we have bias and correct that for ourselves. You know what I mean? We
Mhm.
can't be perfect for every other human being. We can't. It would be nice if we could, but that's not really a possibility. All we can do is be truthful and honest with ourselves and own that honesty and live it to, be who we are. And then if we have judgments against people, or a lack of information or beliefs about somebody that are stereotypical, that we choose to get more information. We choose to have the difficult conversations. It's not
Mhm.
about feeling guilty that the system is the way that it is, and that there are still people who are, I think that the thing that is happening now, there has always been this level of racism going on in our world, in our culture. What's happening now is it's been emboldened in a way that people feel free to normalize it. And as deeply grotesque and uncomfortable as this process is, it was necessary. It was necessary for a whole group of people to wake up and say, oh, that's what that is. And oh, now they're doing it towards me. I mean, any marginalized person, which is pretty much anybody that's, and I can't just say just white males, but maybe white straight males. You know what I mean? But you know, anybody who has ever been marginalized understands to some degree what it's like to, you know, be looked at with the eyebrow up. Or you can feel that internal judgment from another person because they don't understand who you are, or they feel it makes them feel awkward, or it counters what they've been indoctrinated to believe. Right? But all we can do as people is to acknowledge what those things are in ourselves, forgive ourselves for having that, and then decide who we want to be moving forward.
Absolutely. And I think, so let's go back for a second. So neither of us thought this conversation, we didn't know where we were going with this conversation. And
yeah,
we went like, woo, like, but I will say something. If you're holding that belief and I'm holding my belief, that I would have to say that our oracle decks hold those same beliefs, and they're not designed for people who aren't willing to pull down the covers, open up the blinds, and step in and say, I don't know the answer. This is messy. But I'm willing to have the hard, difficult conversation.
Right.
And in my life, I have a conversation that's been going on for over 30 years with someone. And the reason we're still having the conversation with all the difficulty and all the pushback is because we're willing to have the conversation.
Right.
And I think that, I know my deck is about how to have that conversation with yourself and go deeper, because it's not like the card I pulled today is Biag Olmai, and he's the keeper of the winds that are covered underneath the snow. And he keeps the winds at bay by putting more snow and packing the snow on top of it, so that we don't have to have the conversation as one gust of wind.
Got it. Yes. Well, and I it's very interesting when George Floyd was murdered, I had a couple of interviews with people at the time. One woman, she was a small business owner, and she was Black, and I had said, hey, you know, could we have this conversation? And you know, of course I got a really curt rejection, and she canceled the interview. And you know, she was grieving hard, as all of us were. But the interesting thing for me, that opened up a new set of understandings, that this is not a black and white problem. This is a white problem. It is not their job, the job of a person of color, to educate me on how to deal with my bias. It is our job as a culture to talk about the biases that we have. I mean, everybody's got bias. Certainly everybody has a bias. And that's the universal thing. But there is also this indoctrinated system that we live in, that we have got to be able to have those conversations and recognize, you know, the unconscious stereotypes, like allow them to start to rise into consciousness. Right? You know, it's like when somebody's overly emotional, we call her, you know, her crazy. A man is, you know, smart and aggressive and powerful, but women are crazy. Right? So there's always this, there is a double standard that exists, that it is our job as people who want to heal to have that conversation.
That's true. I watched, where that really was apparent for me was, I watched the Hillary Clinton, what's it called, when the movie there, a documentary about how many times this very smart woman, smart in her class, smart in her school, smart, that we just kept piling on what the other person did, what the other, and whatever she did or didn't do, but
Right.
you couldn't separate it out from, privilege of white men over this really smart woman who had a lot going on.
Right.
And I'm not taking sides on other things she may or may not done, but the bias against a woman, a smart woman, was very clear and told really in a way where you got to see her hurt and her disappointment in all of that. I thought it was a really very well done.
Absolutely. These are powerful conversations that we have to have them. We have to root out anytime we want to judge or exclude somebody or say, I don't, because they're gay, I don't agree with their lifestyle. That means we just don't understand what that is. It's not something for you to agree with or approve of, right? Nobody needs your approval, right? And so if you want to move beyond that judgment that you carry, it only hurts you. It hurts you. And that's something that a person that carries that, they need to reconcile that for themselves, because there will always be an imbalance.
Right.
Right. You just said something, and I don't know what it was, but the thought that triggered in my mind was this idea of fake news. Like, people, the strategy that they're using is saying something, a fact, a made up fact, saying it over and over and over and over again. And literally people then believe it to be true because they've heard it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
That was really effective. They've been doing that for decades. But we took it as gospel in the 50s, and then we started to rebel in the 60s, and then we started to wake up in the 70s, and then in the 80s we didn't care because shit was really fun, and we
were high,
right, this illusion.
We were high in the 80s.
High in the 80s, and then the 90s happened, and now the 2000s, and we are so inundated with all of this information, and we have cyclically had untrained in us our critical thinking. Our education has shifted, and this is all. There were people that in the 50s they devised these concepts and they have implemented them over the decades. So now we are sitting with people who don't have critical thinking skills, and they do not know how to consciously differentiate between what is truth and what isn't, because there's so much information. But the interesting thing that we absolutely have, that no matter who you are, no matter what you know, no matter what you believe, you have your heart and you have your intuition. You have the ability, if you are willing to hear what is true, not what you want to believe, not what you've been told, not what you hope it is, because you know what? There are a lot of people today looking at what our administration has created so far that are sad about it and embarrassed to admit that they voted for it, that they encouraged it, that they were a part of it. And there's this whole thing that, we have to be accountable. And there's a lot of reasons to not be hopeful. And so the one thing that I've been contemplating a lot is that the one thing that we can be hopeful with is that there is only one truth, and it is the truth that includes all of us and our divinity. And when we lock onto that, it's going to show us which facts are true and which aren't, who's lying and who's not.
And once the more and more you get attuned to it, it reveals itself really quickly. Right. I would love to leave us on that thought. That's like a beautiful, uplifting thought. I would like to. And the other thing that's happened here is, when we were having this conversation, I hadn't done a Practical Shaman podcast in a minute, because I do my Shaman's Cave every other week.
Right.
But it really encouraged me as to what I would like to have conversations about this year with other people.
Yeah.
And so if you're out there and you're an author and you want to have a heart-to-heart conversation with me And let's have that conversation, and let's carry on with the Practical Shaman and see if we can talk about some of these difficult, hard issues and show up for each other in some kind of unity around a conversation.
Right.
And how would you like to leave us with how do people get to know you? And we want you both to come over and see us over at the Conscious Life Expo.
Yes, I'm going to be in booth number L4. It's in the lower lobby of the LAX Hilton, and it's February 20th, 21st, and 22nd. I'm doing a lecture every single day. I want to leave people with this. This is a book that came out in 2020, Conquer Your Karmic Relationships. Heal spiritual trauma to open your heart and restore your soul. This is so relevant right now, and it talks about it talks about all of the different things that are relevant to what's happening right now for us today, and it gives people an opportunity to evaluate where they were, where they are, and where they want to be.
Wonderful. It sounds like a really important thing, because it's all about relationships.
It is.
There is nothing else. And I'm really glad we met, and I'm really glad we had this conversation. Yeah. And for those who you are listening, please like and subscribe, and let's carry on these hard but important conversations with people you love and care about. Thank you.
Thank you very much.